Yeah, I want to welcome everybody on this beautiful Saturday morning here in downtown LA. The information that I have is something that I believe everybody can do. It's not that hard. I did get very lucky, but we'll go back to that. So my name is Juan Moreno. I came here when I was 3 years old from Guatemala with my family, and we landed in Southgate. We were there for about 15 years, and I went to Southgate High. We moved to Compton when I was 14, 15, and then I still went to Southgate High, graduated from there, ended up going to East LA College for engineering. I did electrical engineering there. Then I was fortunate enough to be able to transfer to UCLA, go Bruins. I know we have a lot of Bruins here, and a few people from the other school, I think. My brother, he went to USC. Can you guys believe that? Actually, he went to USC before me, and then I went to UCLA. We do have some Berkeley people here in the house, too. Anybody else? Any other schools? Alabama? We got Alabama, the champion over here. Too many time champions. Everybody, we hate on that guy. Anyways, so yeah, we have a lot of people that went to school, went to different places. I went to UCLA. I graduated in 2006. Can anybody tell me the significance of 2006? It was June 2006, 2007, 2008. What happened? The housing bubble, market crash. It was a terrible time. I didn't know that. I had no clue. When you're in school, normally you only pay attention to your studies. Guys pay attention to girls, girls pay attention to guys, I guess, but also your studies, right? So you're in between that, you're partying, you're doing all your stuff, you're trying to get A's, and the world doesn't matter. What matters is your physics test. What matters is your English paper. Politics you might tap into, but really you're not really doing much because you're studying, you're trying to get your grades, and essentially you don't pay attention to what's going on around the world. At least I didn't. So when I graduated in 2006, I did end up getting a job for at General Electrics before I graduated. I was there for 4 years. But the big significance of that point in time is that in January 3rd, and I remember this vividly, of 2017, I showed up to work. I was there like around 8:30, like a good worker. And around 9 o'clock, they sent out an email saying, we have an all-hands-on meeting at 10 a.m. Be there. It was probably about 60 of us that were employed in this location, which is in Costa Mesa, and they let go about, 30% of the people, and they said, everybody that's in here, you guys are saved. Whoever is not here pretty much has been let go. And I said, whoa. It was kind of crazy because I didn't know that engineers get fired. I had no idea. I was 23 years old. So to me, getting that news was like, what? I just came from Christmas vacation. I just came from spending money, from buying clothes, from getting in more debt, from doing all this cool stuff, and I show up and some of my friends get fired. So then I said, there's no way that this is going to happen, because if it did, then I have no money, I have no savings, I have more debt. In fact, as soon as I graduated, my mom and my dad had been holding the bag for me for a very long time, just like most parents do. And they said, hey, Juan, remember that credit card that you used? And I said, no. And they said, well, we do. So they said, you owe about $3,000, you're going to start paying it. Like, whoa, another debt that I had no idea. Once the student loans find out that you have a job, you can't defer anymore, you start paying that. And then now you think you're cool, you buy a car. So you buy a car. You get in all this debt. Essentially, you have to work to make sure you stay on top of it, which is called the rat race. Right? We're all in it. Hopefully, this can help you get out of it. But either way, that's what happened, and that's what changed my life. Okay. Shortly thereafter, I have a very good friend, mentor per se, and also stepdad-in-law, who I spoke to very shortly after, and I said, hey, Bobby, what do you do for investments? Do you do any stocks? And he says, I don't do any stocks, but I do have real estate. And I said, oh, real estate, what is this? And he's like, yeah, I have some multiplexes, blah, 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 blah. We didn't get too much into it, but he just said that. Once I noticed that, I also noticed that the family on his side got into these investments, and I said, wait a minute, I'm a pretty smart guy. I make some money. Maybe I can do the same. Okay, so I started getting into buying these multiplexes. With that example that was there, and then I also mentioned one other thing, one other big thing that really made me go to this path, but not necessarily was why. But he introduced me to one of his cousins who at the time owned 3 McDonald's. To me, that's like, owning any type of franchise is crazy. This guy actually owned 3 McDonald's. I'm a very energetic guy. I said, I want to meet with him. I want to talk to him. So then he said, okay, cool. Let me tell him about you. He gave me a phone call. I remember stepping out of work in General Electrics, talked to him for an hour. Probably was the best hour I spent in my life at the time for financial understanding, because he definitely gave me a lot of good pointers, and one of the pointers was to go out and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay? How many here have read the book? What do you guys think about it? Yeah? Good? I wasn't thinking that way when I read the book at all. I was an engineer. I was going to make money through engineering. I was going to go through the corporate ladder. It was going to be a good time. And essentially, once I read that book, I said, wait a minute, there's a different way of doing something. This is crazy, right? The book doesn't talk about real estate. It talks about assets. So it's not like it tells you, hey, do real estate and you'll be able to be successful. It just tells you how to, how to think and change your mindset, which is a big thing that I'm going to start right now, helping you guys hopefully change the mindset of what is real estate and why it's good for you, and why buying in your first investment, buying a real estate investment property is better than buying a house. Okay? I predict what is going to happen with real estate, but hey, 1900 to 2018, there's just a straight arrow, up and down, but the arrow keeps on going. 2008, now prices 2018, exactly 10 years later, are what they were and more. And if you would have bought a property then and you buy it with us, you would have bought it right, you would have suffered through the downs, but right now you would have been 10 years later of picking up rents and gaining back that equity. Okay? So, I left engineering and started this company, and now we're here. Okay, so that's my background, my story, and hopefully you guys can have something similar, saying, hey, I went to the seminar, and it was really cool, and I invested in 2018, and now it's 2028, and I'm gold. Okay? It takes time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take time. Real estate is a slowly moving animal, per se, but at MVIP, we can definitely help you move it a lot faster than you think. Okay? So here's what we all like to do is, here's the income, and here's the assets. Okay? In the corporate world, you will get a salary. In this case, this person is at $50,000. Okay? 10 years later, the same person, it's kind of a guesstimate. The same person is at $67,000 10 years. Okay? So that's an increase of $17,000 a month, or a year, as you go through your progression. Normally people get anywhere from, let's just say 0 to 3% increase. If you're lucky, 5%. If you are top of your, top of your company, 10%. I think this is done for 10%, I'm not sure. But either way, if you notice, it's kind of crazy to think about it this way. Okay, because you say, wait a minute, where am I at? Where I start, where am I getting? And this is kind of where you're at. And I mean, I went through this cycle as well. But I was minding my assets. Can anybody tell me an asset other than real estate? Stocks. Okay, stocks. Anybody else? Gold. So minerals. Anything else? Bonds, 401k. I mean, 401k is a slowly moving asset, but it's still one within yourself because it does invest in stocks. And then we have real estate, right? If you mind this as much as you mind this, trust me, you will be more successful here. It's just going to happen because it rides itself. It pushes itself. You have to be able to get the money from here and invest it here. If you do not, and you put this money into the bank or into having a great time in your life, which is not a bad thing, then you're slowly missing years here. Okay? One of the biggest articles that have been coming out that I've seen, and I think the same way, is of traveling. People like to travel. And millennials love to travel because we like to post it on Instagram. And we like to post it on Facebook. And we like to be in Snapchat and all these other cool things that we like to do. I'm part of that cycle, okay? But we end up spending our $3,000 that could have been saved over the year on a 2-week vacation, and therefore you're back to zero, and you have to start all over. Trust me, one day I remember talking to my wife, who was sitting back there, telling her about what our next steps might be, and she did tell me this. She says, "But I don't want to travel when I'm old." She did say that, right? Yes, she did. She said, "I don't want to travel when I'm old," and I said, "Wait. Nobody's talking about traveling when you're old. We're just talking about doing something." And in fact, when she asked, or when we were talking, I said, "I don't know what I'm going to do." That was the answer. It was 2009. Okay, I didn't know. I said, I don't know. I'll do something. I'll figure this out. With that being said, we started looking into these assets, and we came about in that sense. And the income, if you mind your income only, it's not the best thing to do, okay? Think about this every day. Every day. Okay, I know I ask myself this question. Every single day of my life, I woke up and I said, how do I make more money? That was my question. Why? It wasn't necessarily so that I can have all these cool things and whatever. It was more for security, to feel good, to be able to provide for my family, be able to provide for my parents if need be, to just be able to be self-sustained, okay? Extraordinary results. So in here, we're talking about a path that most of us are part of. And will continue to be part of, which is not a bad thing for the rest of our lives. Okay? And that path is a path of working, making money, presumably high school degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD gets you more money through time. That doesn't always work that way, but let's just assume that. Okay, so you work, your salary goes up, and you're going to have a nice, beautiful, linear path and a good living, and you will. So a lot of people do this. What is the American dream? Can anybody answer that? What is it? Anyone? Owning a home, right? So basically, we all grew up saying, I want to buy a house, and I want to buy somewhere. This is what I want to do. In this market, it's really tough to buy a house. This market is really tough to buy a house where you really would like to live. I had a couple come to me and say, hey, Juan, I want to buy a house in Long Beach, in the nicer parts of Long Beach. And then I said, okay, cool. How much can you pay for a house? And the answer was $2,000. And I said, okay, $2,000, what you're going to get, you're not going to be able to buy a house in Long Beach for $2,000, especially the area you want. I know where you could buy a house. You could buy a house in Linwood, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and that's going to get you $2,000. But wait. I don't know where Linwood is at. And I said, well, this is where Linwood is located. They're not familiar with the area, et cetera, et cetera. They probably don't want to live there. Okay, they wanted 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Okay, in Linwood, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you're going to be spending about $3,000 a month. And that's way out of the budget, right? So the very next thing I told him was about doing something different, okay? And how you can potentially get these extraordinary results is by doing something different. You have to sacrifice, right? You have to sacrifice not owning that white picket fence that you thought about. You have many years to get there. Trust me, everybody here will buy a house. Hopefully you will buy it cash, okay? And when you're ready to buy that house cash, it will be because of these extraordinary results, because what we want to do is get you to the point where you're doing this. Extraordinary results. So these are the extraordinary results that can get you not only your linear money that you will get regardless. I don't see why not. You could perform in your work and also hire people like ourselves to manage these type of assets. It doesn't change anything. It only changes that now you have an asset that can potentially get you more money per month, and per year you'll be earning money over the rents. Trust me. Okay? Rents only go up. At least in LA they do. Okay? So does anybody have any questions on this? Okay. For those of you that currently do own a house and have bought a house or a condo or not a multiplex, if you bought it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you know what that is. You know how much more your house is worth. It is worth more money. You know, would the better investment been an investment property? I'm going to say yes. Okay. Most of these properties will appreciate better because they're a business. Okay. So think about it as a business. This is not a house that you're going to, let's just say, be at or whatever, but this is a business that you have to run it like a business. Okay, a lot of people buy these places, they don't run it like a business. You know, they're not in it to win it. Their asset's not going to be the best. At MVIP, we run it like a business. Why not? It's exactly what it is. Okay? Anyway, so here's the extraordinary results. And I saw this here, when I was in engineering. I clearly saw it and I said, wait a minute, all my investments that I've done, all the investments that I've done have outperformed my corporate ladder movement. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying, and it wasn't that I wasn't doing well, it was more because the other ones were doing better. Okay? And this next one is investment property versus house. Identifying the benefits of owning a multiplex versus a house. This is my house picture or drawing. Pretty simple. Okay. This house here, 30 years later, it's right there, 30 years. If you buy this house for, let's just say, $400,000, you now have a mortgage of, give or take, make it an easy number, $3,000 a month. Okay? Over 30 years, this house that you bought could now be worth, I'm just going to throw a number out there, make it nice and pretty, $1 million. Okay? But, and I did this math earlier, you paid $1.08 million for that same house, right? You know that. Okay, so you did get the equity, and it is yours. What happens in 30 years? There's no more mortgage payment. Cool. Congratulations. You now own $1 million property without any mortgage payments. One of the biggest highlights that anybody can ever have. In fact, a few of my friends have family members that have reached those goals throughout my years, and I'm always very happy for them because it's not easy. Okay, we tend to do crazy things while ownership. In 2008, a lot of people lost their house, including some of my family members that didn't understand real estate finances and interest rates and balloon rates and all that other stuff. But here, only fixed rates. That's all we do. Okay, and we definitely go through the paperwork and make sure that happens. So that's the ownership of a house. Nothing wrong with that. You have a home, everything's nice and dandy, et cetera, et cetera. But, big but, if you understood the difference between owning a house and a multiplex in the same exact time, 30 years, you first would buy this property for, let's just say $600,000. Why is it more? A, they do cost more. B, you could afford more. Maybe your top is $450,000 for a house, but $800,000 for a multiplex. Why? Because the rental incomes help you. Okay, the rental incomes help your salary base. Okay, then you buy this house or this apartment complex for $600K, and let's just say I get you in and you are at negative $500 a month. Okay? You're saying, what? Another bill? But is it another bill? Does anybody here have a car payment? Raise your hand. I know we've all been through that. Have a car payment. Does anybody care to share how much they pay for those cars? $300, $400 a month? Right? Okay, so it's close. Depending on the car you're buying, how much money you're spending, it's cool. It's your car. It takes you A to B. I'm sure you have some bumps in there. Maybe you have some rims, and it's a good time. Trust me, I love driving my car. Okay? But here's my point. That is not an asset. That is a liability. You will pay for it dearly every month, fixing. Oscar's shaking his head because he says yes. It happens. So we pay dearly for it. But in this case, what is this? It is not a liability. It is an asset. Eventually, this negative $500 a month will turn to positive $500 a month. Now, how long is that? It depends. If you don't hire us, it'll be forever. If you hire us, it'll be very fast. But anyways, so the negative $500 turns into a positive eventually. And here's just a guess over what this will look like over 30 years, but it will be worth more than this house. And for round number's sake, let's just say $2 million. Okay? And you will be able to have increased the rents over those same 30 years at a minimum 3% rent control basis, even if rent control, the last 10 years rent control has been 3% that they've allowed you to raise it every year. Assuming it's the same, then you'll be able to reach straight up $15,000 with this number, because this number, give or take, most of these properties are going to be making you about $4,500 a month rental income, but your mortgage is about $5,000, so you're at negative $500 with bills and all that other stuff. Sorry. So this number is all calculated with everything you need, right? This is the number at the end, but slowly but surely, you'll make it positive over 30 years. Slowly but surely, you're going to gain some money. So here, lowballing it, you will now have $10,000 of income per month for your entire units. Okay, what does that mean? You no longer have a mortgage, no more mortgage, right? Which you never really even paid, because this thing's going to turn to positive. You never paid anything. Let's just pretend you are gaining about $300,000 over those 30 years. Positive money, right? And then you have $2 million and $10,000 come into your pocket every month as passive income. So the biggest difference that I want you guys to get out of here with is this is a $1 million net between 2 and 1 and a $10,000 continuous income. Difference between a house. That takes sacrifice because a lot of us here want a house. That's what we want. And why not? We deserve it. I'm sure we work very, very hard for it, but more sacrifice to come. I graduated in 2006, and I said, I'm not going back to school. I already did my 4 or 5 years that I was there. I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing it. I mean, if I went back to school, I would get a master's, or at the time I said I would get a master's, but I just went to the School of Hard Knocks of investments, and I pushed that. And I now clearly understand the best path to make money without necessarily having to go back to school, but I am learning from a lot of people that are around me that are very highly educated, and I love being surrounded by people that have done that because they definitely have a different insight over what I have. Working together is always a good thing. But either way, this is a biggest thing that you should take over why you should buy this guy versus this guy, especially before your first investment. Doesn't mean that for your second or third you shouldn't, because at the end of the day, this is always going to happen, no matter what. No matter if it's your first, second, third, or fourth buy, this will always win. Okay, so equity in versus equity out, and this is mainly for the people that potentially already own property. It's funny because I went through this exercise with someone that owns 7 properties. Okay, it's crazy that he's been buying for a very long time. And I went through his entire portfolio and I analyzed all the numbers et cetera, et cetera. And we came up with a solution that if his entire portfolio is making him, I think it was about $2,000, but if he did this, I think it was 2 properties that he would sell and then buy the units the way we're asking him to buy it, that instead of making $2,000, he would be making $4,500. So he says, hey, Juan, that sounds like a good time to me. How do we start that? And I said, well, easy. Let's just list them and get that going. My goal isn't necessarily to say, hey, sell your house because sell your house. No, sell your house because it makes sense for you, not for me. I'll just be in between helping you out, but it makes sense for you. You know, that's it. I wouldn't tell you to do something if it doesn't make sense. Literally sense, money, dollars, right? Okay, so equity in versus equity out means this. You bought a house, I don't know, $2,000, and you bought it for $250,000, and now we're in 2018, and that same house is $550,000. Presuming there's nothing in between, you just get all the money, you have about $300,000 in equity. Can anybody tell me what is that equity doing in your house currently for you? Nothing. It's really doing nothing. Now, it does make you feel nice and tingly because you're like, hell yeah, I got $300,000 if I wanted to. And it's true. If you wanted to, you can sell it. Eventually, you can take that money out and do the next great thing. But currently, it's doing nothing. Okay? So what I mean by equity in versus equity out is this. We go there, we dig a hole, and we take it out by selling the property. And now you have $300,000 in your hand, aka the bank. And you can now do the next great thing with it. And I'm going to show you in a second. But here's the one thing where we are, and we're all human beings, so we all have these emotions and feelings and things that we really, really want to make sure stays with us in our lives, is that I love that house. I grew up in that house. I did this and I did that, and everything's wonderful in that house, which is true. You're not going to sell it like that. But if you could just say, I'm a robot, doesn't matter, because it makes sense to actually sell it and do this next step, that is just financial, that's just talking about finances. That's it. Just money and how you can generate more money through your own properties that you have. Okay? So what you do is you buy your very first property after you sold your property, and you have to have nothing under your name after this situation. 0 under your name. Okay? So you would buy it at 3.5% down payment. Okay? Which is the lowest down payment that you're going to see unless you are a veteran, and thank you very much if you are a veteran, you will be at 0% down payment. Okay, there's a way to buy these units through veterans. It's a little bit harder for us agents to get it done, but we know how to do it. Okay, so you'll be at 0, but most of us will be at 3.5%. So we do the first one at 3.5%, and then and it'll take you about, and I'm going to go through this later on in more detail, but it's going to take you about $20,000. $20,000 to buy this one, okay? I'll tell you what this 20 means, okay? And then, so many months later or a year later, you can buy one 25% down. Oh, let's just say a $600,000 property. So the property is worth $600K, obviously 25% is $150. Adding these two together, potentially you're probably making about $2,000 a month, and I'm lowballing it because I like to make sure that we, what is the term? We under promise and over deliver, okay? So you will hit these numbers, okay? So now you turned 300,000, 20K, you have 20K outside, 150, 170, and if you have a significant other, you can do the same. And now you're talking about $4,000 a month. Positive income. And then you say, so where am I going to live? Where am I going to live? I'm going to take that $4,000, and if you really, really want to use all that $4,000, and live in a location, trust me that you'll end up having a better house to live in. And two assets, two or four assets growing faster than you ever gonna grow this house. Okay, so I'm gonna start the how to purchase your very own investment property portion of the seminar, which again is basically why we're here. So you need about 12 things, but the four main ones that you need in order to be able to do this process is this. Number one, 2 years taxes. Or, do we have any newly graduates here in this room? Yeah, newly graduates, or, so you don't have this 2 years taxes, or your diploma. Okay, how does that work? Basically, it says, hey, I graduated from wherever, this is my major, and now you have to show them your stubs of your work. You have to have been at work 1 month because they want 2 pay stubs. And that's how we can get around the 2 years taxes. Okay, but then you need the second thing. Number 2, credit score of 640 or more. Okay, if you are 640 or more, congratulations, you have qualified for that, but do not get discouraged if you're below that. Our team of experts can definitely help you fix that if need be. It's better to look at what's wrong with your credit and really start attacking it, because if you wait till the day you say, wait a minute, I'm going to do my 2 years taxes and then the rest of the stuff, and then you show up to the office and you say, hey, I'm ready, and then we look up your credit score and it's at 590, we could have been working on your credit score before you had to do all the rest of the stuff. So don't be shy. A lot of us do not have good credit, trust me, okay? But we're going to work that out. You might have done some mistakes that you didn't understand before, but we're there to fix it. We'll guide you on where to go, and then we have a third-party vendor that can help you out with the credit score and do what you have to do, okay? So that's another one. The third point is a down payment, okay? So it depends on what you're buying, but the down payment of these properties that we're currently purchasing, $500,000 to, let's just say, $1 million, 3.5% puts you at about $20,000 to, let's just say, $40,000. Okay, round numbers. Okay, so that's how much you need in your bank in order to be able to afford these properties in those areas. It's all depending on the cost. Okay, so number 4. Number 4 is seasoning. I don't know how to spell seasoning. Is this correct? Anybody? Yes? Yes. Seasoning money, okay? 3 months. Okay, you have to have 3 months money in your bank when we close. Okay, what does that mean? That means that if, 3 months seasoning of mortgage, okay? So if your mortgage at a $500,000 is 735, let's just say 3,500 to, in this case, 7,000, you need 3 months of this. So what is that? 12, 3, 6, 9, 12, about, let's just say about 11,000. Okay, to 21,000. What does that mean? That means that you have to have in your bank 20,000 plus 11,000. Okay, so that's the addition. So you're talking about 31,000 to 61,000 in order for you to buy your first investment. Now, a lot of you guys are like, what the hell? I have to have this, and then I have to have that, and I have to. Trust me, it is a lot easier than I'm making it sound right now. There is another thing that you can have. If you have it, it does help you, is a 401k. Anybody know? Anybody here have a 401k? Yeah? You can use a certain percentage of that 401k to help you out with the seasoning or with the down payment. Okay? So you use that to help you do any of this stuff. Okay? Or what you do, if you say, wait a minute, I do have the 20,000, but I don't have the seasoning, then you get your favorite aunt or uncle or parent or friend to help you with the down payment, okay? So you ask them, hey, can you help me with this down payment? And they gift it to you, which is allowed. They can gift you the down payment, and then you still show that you have the seasoning, and then you figure it out with them, okay? When we have the consultation, we will talk personally about your personal situation and how we can get this going. Do not stop because you don't think you have enough of this money here. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. You said they can give you the down payment?
They can gift you the down payment, which would be this.
Like a percentage of the down payment?
They can give, they can give you whatever portion they want, and you can do the other portion. Yes, you can do that. Okay. Anybody? Any other questions within this? Yeah, no taxes, no nothing. They're basically giving you money for free, and it's all the paperwork is there and everything's done correctly. What you cannot do, you cannot have seasoning money that somebody else has. It has to be under your name, under your bank. Okay, so that money has to stay. When you close, you have to have $11,000 or more in your bank. If you have $10,999.99, they will not do it. They're very strict on that. Okay, so those are the big ones. The rest is your ID, Social Security, all the rest of the stuff that's very simple for you to get: bank statements, pay stubs, etc., etc. But these you have to have. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you an example of what happened last year with someone and how we created this deal and how you can actually get your money back, potentially. Not everybody does it. I'm going to say about 50% at best. But at the same time, it does go somewhere, and I'll show you right now with this example here. So you buy your first multiplex. And you're making, it's making $4,000 a month, total income, okay? And your down payment was $18,000. To go ahead and get this. So you buy it, and right now where are we? We're May. Okay, so we're May. So May 1st, and you end up buying it May 15th and June. This is June 1st. When you buy this investment property, 3 things happen right away, okay? Through escrow, the first thing that happens is you gain the prorated rents of this property, right? Because you bought it on the 15th, the 15th and on, those rents are yours. If you're making $4,000 a month, now you own $2,000 of that, right? So that goes to you. So prorated rents of $2,000. Number 2, when this transaction happens, normally everybody has deposits on their rents, and they'll give you the deposit. Normally it's 1-to-1. We've seen sometimes more, we see sometimes less, but let's assume it's 1-to-1. You get $4,000 back to you as well, okay? The last one, but not least, and this always happens to any owner and guaranteed to be outside of escrow after, because you already own it. What happens on June 1st with your property? What? Rents are due. But we are very fortunate that your mortgage is not due on June 1st. It is due on July 1st. So your mortgage is due on July 1st, but you don't have to pay a mortgage for that month. It's pretty much part of your down payment in a sense. But who cares, because you get it back. So in this case, if rents are being collected, you get $4,000. The addition of all these $10,000. You paid $18,000 for the asset. In essence, you are at $8,000, and now you own your very own multiplex that if you manage it correctly, hopefully within the next year, 2 years, you're going to see all that money back, and after that, it's just creating the asset to grow, to grow, to grow. So one thing that may happen within this money as well is that they don't let you take it out through the process, through the escrow process, through the banks and whatnot, but it will go somewhere positive for you. Closing costs, it helps you. It helps you anywhere. This money does help you, so it does go somewhere, and you'll clearly see that. If you're fortunate and we could, then obviously you have it out, but it all depends. Not everybody's the same, not every bank is the same, not every deal is the same, okay? But that's what I've seen. It happened to me. This has happened to many of my clients, and this is a way to invest some money and slowly but surely get it right back. That is it. This is it. So if you have this, or slowly but surely can work on it, or have questions, you have to make a consultation. There's no reason for every one of you guys not to show up to my office to discuss your personal situation.
If you don't get an asset, this is just a story. Another 10 years are going to pass, and you're not going to realize what just happened. Like I said, I'm not out here to make you have a part-time job. I'm not out here to do anything different. What I am out here to do is guide you, direct you, and give you the right options to create something that potentially will set you up the rest of your life or generations to come. We have to stop thinking about today. We have to stop thinking about tomorrow. It's time to start setting generations. Now we're going to go to the beginning of it. Once we go and we open this beautiful thing called escrow, means we found a property, we have our jobs, we have our documentation, we're going to open escrow. And within possibly the first 3 days, we do this thing called deposit. What does that do? You're telling the seller that you're for real. I'm letting them know it's more of a good faith to the seller, and it's very common in every transaction you have to do it. And you're letting them know that you're not trying just to walk away from the property, and allows you to open escrow. That deposit also could go towards your closing, towards your deposit, towards your down payment. But, like I said, we have within the first 3 days to do it. It's technically, at times, give or take. From there, in the next, let's say, 4 days, we're going to we're going to have to order this thing called appraisal. You all heard what an appraisal is? Do you guys all know? Who has never heard what an appraisal is? Anybody never heard what that word was? Okay. What it is a 20-page document that you paid a third party. Why do you want to do that? Number one, it's a requirement from the bank. Number two, who pays for it? The buyer. You have to pay it for yourself. Why do we have to do this? The bank wants to know exactly what you're buying. They want to know the ins and outs. They want to make sure everything works. Why is it important to you? Well, don't you want to know that what you're purchasing actually has value? There's a little bit more depth into it. They have to do a little bit more research on the rent, a little bit more research on the home. Let's not push something that means a lot to us. Okay? From there, we're going to go, we submit everything, and about, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks in, we submit all your financial documentations to this box, which is called the underwriter, the real bank. And if you all did exactly what we told you, and we all went and the property had no issues, then the underwriter allows us and gives us this thing called the loan approval. Okay? Let's put it LA. What it means is that the bank is now assuring us that we're approved for that property. It's totally different of pre-qualification. A pre-qualification, it's a property in general. Once we go into underwriting, it's one property and exactly our financial situation. And most importantly, your financial situation and your financial situation will always be different. Okay? Well, let's say you both are twins. You both have the same job, same school, same everything. Will your situation always be the same? Absolutely not. Because your assets are also determining by the number of rooms, the number of units, and the location and the cost of the rents. So, like I said, a lot of these things that we're always going to have questions, it's better to do a one-on-one consultation with either one of us, because now we could give you more of a target answer than something that it's vague, that's not real. Like I said, everybody has a different situation, but what we're doing is just giving you the core values. Okay? Once we do that, we're going to go into the one biggest thing everybody loves. What do you think that is? I want to hear it. Interest what? Interest rate. We all heard, does anybody not know what an interest rate is? And it's fine. Who controls your interest rate? Who controls your interest rate? Who controls it? Huh? The bank? The market. I don't control it. I don't get paid any different if I give you a low interest rate or a high interest rate. Obviously, we're always going to give you the best possible rate. Why? Because in order to qualify for these homes, we're going to play with the numbers to make sure you qualify for it as well. It's not just based on your income, it's also based on the asset, which is the property. Everything that we listen in politics, everything that's going around the world has influence on interest rates. Okay? So that's one of the big key factors. So, and of course, yourself. You have to control your credit. Okay? Because that's a key factor. You have to have your job. And I'll explain a little bit more of that. Once we get into this and everything's approved, we all accept our rate, we're going to go into loan documentation. So this is usually about the 30th to 40th day. Okay? Once we're at that point in the stage, it's pretty much we're about 90% ready to close on the loan. Okay? That means we have everything together. The bank approved our financials. They look back at our credit. They checked the IRS, make sure we were not lying on our income. They verified it with your employer. Okay? Once we're at day 30, day 40, and we're also going to need a notary. So you're going to have to be notarized about 150 documents. That's what you see on TV. That's where you see people signing off. And it sounds amazing. But let me tell you the biggest secret of this that TV doesn't tell you. You don't get your keys right there. Okay? It's 90% of the commitment. What else is missing to conclude this? Your down payment. Okay? When do we send a payment? Well, after we send out the law and documents. There's a lot of parties involved. We agree with the numbers that Juan and I mentioned to you at the beginning. We're ready to set the wire. Then we will set the wire 1 to 3 days before closing. Once we send the wire and the bank receives it, is usually the point of we're almost done. And they call this thing, it's called funding, meaning the bank gets wired the money, we're good to go. So we get the keys? No. We still need a day. Usually in LA County, it's one of the ones that take an extra day, but there are some counties that allow it the same day, which is we have to record it with the county. That's the real document that's going to go on title, that's going to let you know that it's your property. So it usually takes another day. Some weird times it takes up to 2 to 3 days too. And then that's when we get our keys. Okay? And that's when we're here around day 45. Okay? So like I said, it's not something that happens overnight. We're not just going to tell you get into any property. We're going to guide you and make sure it makes sense to your personal financial situation. Everything I told you today, it's worthless information if you never acquire something. Ask my millionaire friends, what have they done differently? They listened. But just buying does not mean we hit the lottery. What is a key component to this success of this asset? Management. Management. And with that, I would like to introduce Wagner.
I'm going to talk to you about property management. Now you're going to ask yourself, why am I going to talk about property management if you don't even have a property here, right? I'll get into that. First off, I want to talk about myself, who I am. I'm a native Angelino. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. South LA? Awesome. And I went to college at UC Santa Barbara, where I got a pre-law degree. After college, I was lucky enough to get a job at a company called LegalZoom. Has anyone heard of LegalZoom? Yes. So I was there for many years, and during my time there, I did everything from being a manager in the sales department. So if you call, one of my reps would answer the phone. How can we sell you product? I was also in corporate training, meaning that when we have a new class of trainees, we train the new people to get on the phones. But my primary time there was spent in customer service. And in customer service, what I did is I was a manager in the customer care department, and we helped people that had complaints. They would call in, where's my order? You made a mistake. I want a refund, blah, blah, blah. And the reason I bring that up is because while I was at LegalZoom, Juan was obviously doing real estate, and we're very good friends from way back when. He said, why don't you come on board? I'm doing real estate. I want to get this property management company going. I think you have the skills in customer service, which directly relates to property management. Join me and let's make things happen. And I said yes, because he sold me, because he's a good salesman. Okay, so that's my background. So I want to talk about MVIP property management. So if you get to the point where you're fortunate enough to own a property and you don't want to be involved in the day-to-day affairs, you can hire a property management company. That's what we do. So here are our 3 core values here at MVIP Property Management. The first core value is peace of mind. And it says, we provide a hassle-free experience for our clients by managing their day-to-day affairs. So what does this mean? Peace of mind to me means taking all the worry away from you and giving you your time back so that you don't have to worry about your property. So if you're a slumlord and you don't have a heater in your house, or the smoke alarms and the carbon monoxide detectors don't work, when they come and do an inspection and see if you're providing a habitable, clean space, and they see none of this functions, you're going to be fined. You're going to be fined. They're going to ask you to repair everything. So the reason I'm saying that is because as a landlord, especially if you've never been a landlord before, you may not know all these kinds of requirements and all these procedures and all these requisites that the county or city gives you. We know that. I hope that you guys get to the point where you guys own a property. Let me first say that, or last thing I want to say is, you do not have to have a property management company. If you decide to take this journey and you're fortunate enough to buy a multiplex, you do not have to have a property management company. But it helps. You don't have to change your car's oil. Some people take it to Jiffy Lube. You don't have to have someone else change your car's transmission. Some people take to the mechanic. Think of us in that way. We take all the worries and troubles off your shoulders, and we do everything for you. So if you have any questions about property management company, I know that many of you guys don't have a property, but if you're thinking, well, after I buy one, what happens with this? How do I get my rents paid? What about maintenance? Do I evict someone? How does eviction work? Come ask me. I'll be out here after the seminar. You can ask me any questions. I have business cards. I can give it to you. So again, you don't have to have a property management company, but I do want to strongly encourage you that you at least consider buying a property. If you decide to manage it on your own, perfectly fine. But the information that Juan and Rigo have given you is very good. it's a good decision to have a investment property. So do consider that, even if you don't consider using us for your property management company.
Thank you very much, Wagner, for talking about the MVIP property management. Like he said, you don't have to get a property management. I did it by myself for a very, very long time. I asked a bunch of questions to a bunch of people that were already owners of properties. But I think if I was able to afford it, or I thought a little bit differently, they probably would be able to help me get to my goals faster, which is what we try to do here. You'll get a return on investment for sure. And I've seen it on quite a few of the properties that I had that we've helped, because I kind of noticed that they probably wouldn't be doing the same type of renters or the same amount of rent. Somebody would probably rent it out for $1,100 when we know we can get $1,500. That's a $400 difference. So the property management itself will pay for itself sooner than later. Because the mistakes that I've done when I first bought my properties, I know that I could have definitely saved some money by paying a property management, if that makes any sense. So I want to go into some of the past purchases that we have done. Sorry. Page 4, which is the one in San Pedro. This one actually came into contract with $500,000. They're all one bedroom, one bathroom, not that far from the harbor. Not that far from El Porto? No, not El Porto. Portico. Not that far from there. Literally, you can see all the boats from where he's at if you step right outside. This one came into contract at $500,000, and we got the appraisal for $575,000. What does that mean? That means if he really wanted to sell it, the very next day he bought it, he would get that value, because I would just present this to all the real estate agents and say, look, if you want your client to buy this property, this is how much it appraised. So this person basically made $75,000 by trusting this process, finding the right property. I had 2 clients skip on it. I did. And I took the third one. There was some work to be done, and you can tell, but it wasn't bad. It was in San Pedro. It was a good property. And this person said, yeah, I'll take it on, and he did. He was able to get to the appraisal point, and he got $75,000 more. It's kind of crazy, but it does happen, okay? It works for you. If the appraisal's lower, if your agent's good enough, I know I am, we can lower it for you. If it appraises higher, well, even better for you. You already have equity coming in. Okay, now this property is worth, what he did with the property, I think there was one that was empty, and I think somebody moved out. The numbers are he's probably making a little bit over $1,000, and this happened last year, May 2017. It's crazy, okay? But I'm not going to promise you that. I won't do that. I'm going to start you off at negative $500. Think about that number, engrave that in your head, because that's where you're going to start off, and we're going to get you to positive numbers sooner than later, okay? And those are the few examples that I kind of want to show. There's 8 of them, 3 of them that are within this year, and the rest last year sometime. What has changed, and what Rigo was talking about, a little bit has changed. Some of the market or the interest rate has changed, but it's also going to be reflective on prices. It might slow down. This is just a guesstimate. Again, nobody can predict the future with real estate, but the whole point is this. Just like Rigo said, the best time to buy is just now. Whenever it is that you're ready. If you're ready now, don't wait for it. But here's the ultimate goal for MVIP and the family that we're trying to create, or anybody that's out there, because we are on Facebook Live. You guys have been on Facebook Live this whole time, or anybody that's out there that understands how this works. If you guys are able to purchase your first investment property, and we have a bunch of people of like mind, then the best thing to then do is to buy a bigger one, and then after that, get even bigger. Because when I was living, or I am living in Hermosa Beach, I walk up and down the Strand, and I see all these beautiful houses, and I say, how in the world can you ever afford any of these houses? They go down, they get bought for $7 million lots. They build it up, I don't know how much, $3 million. They sell it for 15. So how are you ever going to do that? And pretty much there's a bunch of investors out there that kind of get together and get it done. This is the same thing. If you guys are of like mind here, if you understand this process and you're already winning $2,000 a month here, and I say, hey, you guys can take that equity and win $4,000 a month, it makes sense. Why wouldn't you do that? Per person that comes in. And if you do the next one, which is $8,000 a month, I'm just throwing out numbers, by the way. It all depends on a bunch of different stuff, but the whole point is that the bigger you go, normally the better you are, the more the units, the more the rents, the more the everything, but it all starts in the beginning. Okay, you can't get here without doing this, and that works for anything. Anybody ever ran a marathon, you probably started at 3 miles. You were not at 26 as soon as you started, right? You have to work towards it, and it takes a long time to get to that point where you're able to reach that marathon goal that you have, just like this. It takes a while to grow this real estate portfolio, okay? And hopefully you guys can all join that MVIP family and get to these levels where you guys all can buy together. And I would have all that set up. There is a seminar that we'll be having the next 2 months or so talking about things like this. It's more of a higher investment, you can say, but everybody will get to these levels as long as you understand the first one, do the first one, and you'll get to that point, and you will join the MVIP family, which is the goal. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Same thing, okay? You guys want to go back 20 years from now? Give me a time machine, figure it out. But we can't. So today's a day. Every day that you miss on doing this opportunity, especially if you are ready to do it, you're missing out years that you could have already gained that experience and turned this property into something where you're actually making some tangible money. Okay? Today's a day. Interest rates, prices, no one knows. Okay? It can go anywhere, sideways, up and down, left or right. But if you buy right, why does it matter? Hold it for 10 years, you'll be gold. Trust me. I want to thank you guys for coming out here Saturday morning. I know you guys are busy people, but thank you for coming and sharing this beautiful morning with us. I want to thank my team that made this happen for all of us. They worked really, really hard to make sure that we have the best information for you guys. That's it. Thank you very much, guys.